Hello all, welcome to the Solocast of Firecode Tech. In these episodes, it's just going to be me, your host, Gus Gagliardi. There's going to be a range of topics, but I'm going to talk about specific technologies, installation standards, codes and how they work, as well as some other interesting topics that don't neatly fit inside of the context of a normal interview. Hello all, welcome to episode 27 of Firecode Tech. On this episode, we're talking about clean agent systems. This episode is dedicated to one of the alternative methods of fire suppression and some of the different topics around the subject. As always, we're going to get into the codes and standards associated with clean agent systems, the type of clean agent systems, and some of the design considerations for these systems. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts, and also follow us on social media. Also, if you could give us a 5-star rate and review on Apple Podcasts, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's get into the show. Let's define what a clean agent system is. Clean agent is defined as in NFPA 2001, which is the NFPA standard for clean agent extinguishing systems, as a volatile or gaseous fire extinguishant that is electrically non-conducting and that does not leave a residue upon evaporation. So why is this important? If you have a very valuable asset, such as a data center or say a museum collection storage application, and you have critical operations or pieces of property and or life safety equipment that are so critical and so valuable that you want to go above and beyond the letter of the code and provide additional fire suppression in order to sort of short circuit the fire sprinkler system and save your asset and limit your loss potential, clean agent is the option for you. So clean agent is a gaseous suppression system, and one of the common misconceptions is that you can apply a clean agent system in order to omit your fire sprinkler protection requirements in the building code. And that's not true, and it's probably one of my most frequently asked questions about clean agent systems is, oh, well, if we have a gaseous suppression system, can we eliminate the use of water-based suppression inside of my high-value asset room or protection space? The answer is no. Without an explicit variance from the authority having jurisdiction, you cannot eliminate water-based fire suppression if it is required in a room. Furthermore, if you do obtain a variance and eliminate water-based suppression for a room in lieu of clean agent systems or any alternative fire extinguishing system, you are negating the benefits that are attained through having a fully sprinklered building. There's specific language in the building code in 904, which is the code section we're going to be talking about, that speaks to the code requirements around clean agent systems. Just a quick recap on some of the topics we've covered so far. First of all, we talked about the NFPA standard that governs the installation of clean agent systems, which is NFPA 2001. And now we're going to talk about the code section that has requirements for clean agent systems, which is Chapter 9, more specifically Section 904, which is Alternative Fire Extinguishing Systems. So, alternative fire extinguishing systems act a little bit different than, let's say, fire alarm or fire sprinkler systems, where there are a bunch of explicit requirements for when these systems are needed in Chapter 9, Section 904. There are some different sections in here which will speak to when these systems are required, like for kitchen suppression systems. But for a clean agent, there's not going to be an explicit requirement in Chapter 9 for when these systems are required. So you might ask, how do we know when these systems are required? The answer is they're not required by code, but they can be used as a additional suppression mechanism in order to safeguard high-value assets. There are a couple different broad types of clean agent systems. The first are hydrofluorocarbon gases and HFCs like FM200 systems are made out of man-made, man-manufactured like combinations of gases in order to be used as a gaseous suppressant. Then there are inert gases, such as systems like Energen, which is a proprietary blend of inert gases like nitrogen, argon, and carbon dioxide. Depending on the protection, what you're protecting and, what kind of space is going to be used, and some other factors like cost and configuration of the room, you'll select one of these gaseous suppressants, and this will dictate the rest of your design, including design concentration and a number of other factors. Specifically, when we're talking about code sections that are applicable to clean agent systems, in the 2018 version of the International Building Code, Section 904.10 specifically is titled Clean Agent System and points to NFPA 2001 for the listing, installation, and maintenance requirements for clean agent systems. Just for the sake of conversation and the additional information for if you're looking for code requirements for other alternative automatic fire extinguishing systems, other system types that can be found in Chapter 904, Section 904 are wet chem systems, dry chemical systems, foam systems, carbon dioxide systems, halon systems, which these have been deprecated, but there may still be some of these systems installed, water mist systems, cooking hood fire suppression systems, and this one I had never really heard much about, but aerosol fire extinguishing systems. So I can't think of any systems that I've ever been in the design process for that have been used aerosolized fire extinguishing systems. So that's a little strange. I wanted to speak a little bit about the pros and cons of clean agent systems to give you some context for when you want to apply these systems, or give counsel to building owners for when these systems are a good idea, since there are not as clear-cut situations in the building code for when these systems are required. So we've already kind of talked about that these systems are used for high-value assets and to increase reliability and continuity of critical business infrastructure for clients. But one thing we didn't mention was if clients are, or building owners are really concerned about the potential for water damage, you might offer this system as a combination or a two-pronged fire suppression approach in order to further limit the possibility of water from the sprinklers discharging onto your high-value asset. Some of the negatives of these systems, they are a significant cost add to a project, and like we talked about, they are not an explicit code requirement, so this is an elected fire suppression system, generally in combination with the fire suppression and fire alarm systems that are usually already required for buildings. So it's a significant cost consideration to add these systems. Generally, they are paired with an additional increased initiation device like a aspirating smoke detection, like a VESDA system. I don't have great numbers for exact cost figures, but I've seen back of the envelope calculation figures like $10 a cubic foot for some of these systems, which, if you can imagine, if you have any sizable room, that these systems could be cost prohibitive very quickly. Another consideration for giving counsel for installing these systems might be the tank storage and how you have to store the gaseous suppressant in proximity of the room and or space. So you have additional panels for the controls for the system. unless you're using your fire alarm panel as your releasing panel. You're going to have tanks of gaseous suppressant that are usually attached to high pressure piping that have to be fairly close to the room or asset being protected. What I see as the huge benefit is that, say you have a gaseous suppression system for a data center, and there is a wet pipe sprinkler system, or if you'd like to go even further down the rabbit hole, protection, single interlock pre-action system. Then you have the aspirating smoke detection system, which would basically have the ability to sense the fire extremely early, potentially release the gaseous suppressant and extinguish the fire, and then minimize the downtime for the facility by not having the water damage and the further interruption presented by drenching your electronic equipment with water. One design consideration you have to be careful with gaseous suppression agents are sometimes these can act as asphyxiants. So these inert gases, oftentimes at their extinguishing concentrations, can have the potential to be dangerous to life and health. So you have to keep that in mind when looking at different design applications. There are gaseous suppression agents. Carbon dioxide is not a clean agent system, but carbon dioxide at the extinguishing concentration is at immediately dangerous to life and health concentration in the room. So you have to think about what the space is being used for, if people are going to be occupying this space at a regular basis, and all of these things when you're determining which system is appropriate. One of the extremely limiting factors about clean agent systems is that room configuration and, how much suppressant you need to be viable for these systems to be used. So if you have a large room with high-powered storage, it's likely not going to be a situation in which a clean agent system is going to be able to work for your application due to the cost and the amount of suppressant needed. I do think that it's a very important thing to be aware of. If a client has, say, a critical piece of infrastructure, or they are expressing a great concern in fire and life safety, then there are definitely a lot of good applications for these systems in order to give the client an increased benefit in fire and life safety. Oftentimes I see erroneous pieces of fire and life safety equipment being put into place because people, think, the more equipment is better, and that's generally not the case. I usually try to counsel people to just not go placing fire dampers or combination fire dampers or other pieces of fire and life safety equipment that is not required in just willy-nilly, because there's not a real added benefit to fire and life safety or asset protection if you're applying these systems without thinking about why they're used. That being said, I think Clean Agent is an excellent system for high value assets and providing the client a added sense of protection. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Fire Code Tech. Next time we talk about clean agent systems, I will try to get more into the calculations and some of the design considerations, but today I just wanted to go over some of the misnomers about the subject and some pros and cons about when to apply these systems. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to share the episode with a friend if you enjoyed it. Don't forget that fire protection and life safety is serious business. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are by no means a professional consultation or a codes and standards interpretation. Be sure to contact a licensed professional if you are getting involved with fire protection and or life safety. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.